introduction to what ABAWT is. I'm actually Emmanuel, or Mani for short, easier to pronounce. I'm part of the team of ABAWT, but ABAWT is actually an acronym for A Better Africa with Tech. And this started in February of 2016 in Berlin. And this team has been primarily focused on three main things, right? So Better Africa with Tech, the whole concept was initially and still is community, right? So this was trying to establish a place or an ecosystem where we could actually build and activate and connect Europe and Africa, and also strengthen startups in Africa with technology, right? So this is one of the pillars of ABAWT, but the two others are mentorship and startup support. So we have a mentorship program. We actually activate our ecosystem to, let's say, interface with startups in Africa and really help maybe on points or elevate depending on which kind of angle these startups are facing. And even there's one ongoing project now where this is called Ventures Platform, where we are actually activating some of the mentors in our pool to really interface with these startups, right, in this mentorship program. So please put your hand up if you're willing to be a part of this mentorship program. Let us know, reach out. I think the handles are already shared on the screen, I think, or in the chat. But then there's startup support, right? So we are gearing towards really providing technical assistance to startups in Africa as well. And we have ambassadors actually in Nigeria and Ghana at the moment. And we are still building out this ecosystem and figuring out the right strategy going forward to enable startups tech-wise. But this conversation is happening, like I said, on all our platforms and in our Slack channel as well. So join in and we can have conversation in there. But to the agenda for tonight, right? First of all, a bit of housekeeping. So we're on Zoom. The session is being recorded. So if you're a bit sensitive, please, you can switch off your camera, but we'd obviously like to see your faces and interface as we would have been in a physical space, which we can't be at the moment. So, but just so everyone is aware, the Zoom session is being recorded. Usually the highlights are on the speakers. So your face probably wouldn't even pop up, right? So the panelists will be the main stars of the show. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the panel, right? That follows right after the introduction. If you have any questions during the discussion, during the panel, please pop your question in the chat. And what we'll do is we'll address these questions right after the panel, after the discussion. So please feel free to shoot as many as you want, right? Any interest you have. And then we'll make sure that the panel can actually address these questions you have, and we can have a discussion at the end as well. So without further ado, I'll actually hand over to Saskia, who will be there also. She's also part of the team, Saskia. She's going to take care of the panel and start the discussion with our panelists. So.
Hello and good evening, everyone. Super happy to see everyone. I am also currently trying to spotlight all our speakers here so that you have everyone on your screen so I can do a proper introduction. So excuse the slight slow movement, but okay, great. So super happy to see that there's a lot of interaction. As Mani said, I'm Saskia. I'm part of the ABAWT team. Very excited to have all of you here. And yeah, so tonight we're here basically to celebrate March Women's History Month. And with that, actually our event, Women in Tech Challenging the Status Quo, specifically in the African context, which is, I think, super interesting and is not enough talked about, whereas we see so much potential. And just like in most places of this world, women are many times not fully represented within the tech space. What's interesting though is that on the surface, we know that the African continent actually has the biggest percentage of women being entrepreneurs. However, that percentage falls many times into the realm of smaller businesses that still lack the support of VC funding, as it does with a lot of businesses, entrepreneurial enterprises that have men on the board mostly. So, but I'm here not the specialist. These four ladies that we're having here tonight are actually the specialists in that realm. So I'm going to introduce each one of them, and then just with a quick one, because they definitely know their biography to the T. Therefore, I'll give everyone then the opportunity to introduce themselves to you as well. And as Manny said, they're more than happy to take on your questions throughout this panel. We just pop them into the chat, and we will either read them out throughout the chat or actually in the afterwards when we're done with going through the conversation. So let me start. I would like to introduce to you as the first one, Tosin Tosundura. She is actually currently in Lagos. Yes, she's smiling. So correct. I'm asking because she is an absolute globetrotter and constantly all over the place. So sometimes it's hard to catch up with her and to understand in which time zone she currently is. She is actually award-winning, an award holder of one of the most influential people of African descent that she just got last year, which is super exciting, and congratulations again for that. She has actually many awards under her belt. So this woman is definitely a powerhouse, just like all other three here. Yes, all other additional three women here. She has a consultancy firm, but is also the founder of the Bloom Africa and the Power Girls Africa, which is supporting young women in following their dreams and taking all of their potential. But she will tell us in a minute a lot more about that. The second one is Elodie Nonga. I think she disappeared for a second. Maybe there's some internet issue. Or am I? Let me see. Is Elodie around? No, okay.
Yes,
I'm sure
I'm here.
Where are you? I can't find you. Well, you are not spotlighted. I am so sorry, Elodie. Okay, let me spotlight you again. Sorry. All right. So Elodie is actually also a fantastic, fantastic person. She is located in Cameroon, and she is the founder of WeTech, which is an amazing platform also for women in entrepreneurship and technology. And what is fascinating is that she has created a chatbot together with her team to inform the public in Cameroon about COVID-19, and also do a quick test on seeing whether there is potential for a person to actually have COVID, and then also have touch points on who to contact in case there is a strong potential. So very, very exciting. Absolutely somebody at the forefront of doing really good stuff here. So really excited to learn more about that, Elodie. The third one in the row is Ola Stela. She is located in Germany and works as an IT consultant at Siemens. No, sorry, at SAP. Siemens is Temitayo. I apologize. She's been around with SAP actually for 18 years already. It's amazing, and she's doing great work. On the side, she's actually chapter lead for also a great organization called African Women in Tech Africa. So super excited to learn more about that. And the last one we have here is the lady at Siemens, Temitayo Shojebe. I pronounced it correctly, hopefully. She's also currently located in Lagos. And she works for Siemens, and she's actually building strategy for 19,000 employees. I'm considering also innovations in tech realm and what is needed to bring the business success for Siemens Energy. So welcome, ladies. Very, very happy to have you here. Let me see, who do we start with? Let's start with Tosin. Why don't you start introducing yourself and tell us a bit more about you, your background, and yeah, your women in tech reason.
Thank you so much for having me, Saskia, and to the rest of the team as well for inviting me to speak. I'm always honored that people want to hear me talk about my thoughts, because I have a lot of interesting thoughts, and I'm happy to share some of them with you today, and I hope that we'll have some dialogue around some of the things that I bring up that I think are really important for us to think about. And I always say that my purpose rests in impact. So I, from probably as young as I can remember, I've always been into volunteerism, impact work. I attended the NYU Wagner School of Public Service, where I studied city planning with a focus on housing, economic, and community development. And so I was in that space for over a decade. And, somewhere along the line, some people call it a calling. I don't know if you want to call it that, but it could have also have been because Trump got into office around that time. I'll just be very honest with you, but that's neither here nor there. He's gone now. And so at the time, I just thought, I'll spend a really long time contributing to the US, where I grew up for about 24 years. And I just thought, if I want to really make impact, where should I go? And I just felt the call to come back to Nigeria to see what I could do. And so, like the crazy, fearless person that I'm trying to be, I just kind of took a leap of faith and, came over this way. And so with my job that I had in the US for nearly a decade, I sort of became the millennial in-house tech guru. You know how it happens, because the company I was working for, NeighborWorks America, is a national intermediary, which is funded by the US Congress. And so, but also a social enterprise. And so we kind of had both worlds, private, but also governmental. And on that governmental side, when we talk about technology, as is the case anywhere in the world, I say, if America is like that, then you can't imagine what Nigeria is like. But as with everything in government, they were way behind the curve when it came to technology. And so, as the millennial that I am, and when I say millennial, it's by the skin of my teeth. Like I'm barely in that. I'm holding on. I really want to be a millennial so bad. But yeah. So as a millennial, I then started to say, why are we still using fax machines? Why do you guys know something called e-fax, where you can just fax it to an email address instead? And they said, is that true? And I said, yes, it is. And so all of a sudden I took on a technology role within a company with no technology background. And that's what I love the most about technology, is that I always say that it's a leveler in a way. If you have the interest and the passion and the talent, the doors are open for you. And so for me, I just started taking on projects from there. I started to do things like, project management of building of CRM platforms, data collection tools, just all kinds of things that really got me into, the nitty gritty of product development. And from there, I was sold. And so when I decided to move here, I actually got offered a job as a director of strategic partnerships with another tech firm that was also in impact work. So I did that from here. But here's the truth. I was working US hours, working from, 2 p.m. till midnight every day. And I really wasn't making the impact here in Nigeria that I wanted to. And so when I had to make a decision, I decided to resign from that job and just focus on what I came here to do, which at that time I had no idea what it was. I'll be very honest with you. But as luck would have it, I got an opportunity and I was able to launch the first female focused tech accelerator program called Greenhouse Lab here in Nigeria. It's also the first powered by Google accelerator program on the continent at that time anyway. And so launched that, and I didn't know what a big deal it was. I knew it was a big deal because and I'll talk about some of it today. We established it because women don't get venture capital funding. They don't get support for their tech startups. So we did it. But when I say that I didn't think it would be a big deal, is because I was wondering how many women-led companies, tech companies are in Nigeria. How do I know? I just, I'm doing this, but I have no idea if I build it, if they will come. I didn't know. And people asked me, do you think they'll apply? Well, we got over 100 applications and from 8 different countries, including the US, which said a lot, because when a company is willing to move to Lagos, Nigeria for 3 months to get a shot at $250,000, it tells you that there is an absence of funding in the market. And so from there, I served as chief operating officer, led the digitization of a real estate firm, kind of aligned with my housing background. And now I run my own consulting firm that helps to advise and build partnerships and develop products with, I would say, impact-focused startups. But also private entities and governmental. And so currently my largest client is Microsoft. And so my firm is the lead on the West Africa side for an initiative called For Africa. And it is one of the CSR activities within Microsoft here in Africa. And the purpose is to invest in startups and to give them access to Microsoft products, thought leadership, free consultants, just help them to grow essentially. And so I'm really excited to be doing that work. And if anyone here has a startup that they would like to talk about partnership with Microsoft, I'm your girl. If you're, especially if you are on the continent, so let me know. All right, thank you guys.
Fantastic, thank you, Tosin. Super, super exciting work, definitely. And I think since we're already in the entrepreneurial realm, we'll just move also towards Elodie, who could share about her background and her work in Cameroon, which is super exciting. Also because I must say I'm very proud that we have here actually a French-speaking continent not continent, country, Cameroon the continent, country representing, which I find often we find a lot of synergies between same language speaking countries, but we sometimes lack coming together and creating powerful partnerships also with different languages. So Elodie, of course, speaks in English with us today, but she is from a French-speaking country. So welcome, Elodie.
Thank you, Saskia. Hi, everybody. Yes, I'm Francophone, so I will really try to speak in English tonight. So I'm Christian Elodie. I'm based in Douala in Cameroon. And so I've started as a blogger, as a lifestyle blogger. And I was promoting like Cameroon in terms of tourism, places to visit, and what to discover in Cameroon and so on. And I've started having attention and a lot of opportunities coming to me. And and some recognitions or prizes. And I had people also coming to me asking me for training. How do I do to have this kind of influence and this kind of positions? How do I do to blog? How do I do to, everything I was doing was really and interesting people here, and it was like people were really curious to know more about blogging. What is blogging? How do you do what you do, and so on. So I was selected as an influencer when I don't know if you have heard about Vodafone. Vodafone came to Cameroon in 2013 or 2015, I think so, and they wanted to be they wanted to be more digital than the other telecommunication brand in Cameroon. So they were looking for influencers, for young influencers and ambassadors. So we were selected. We were three, two guys, and I was the only lady selected for that and for the official launch of Vodafone in Cameroon. So people were like, okay, so you started as a blogger and now you are brand ambassador, you are influencer. I started working with international brands, and it's through blogging that I had my first international contracts as well. So people were really interested and was like, okay, so how do you do it? And I started having a question, and that's how I started giving trainings on digital communication, on blogging, on digital marketing, and all that, because I think that when you are a blogger, you are the best person to be a digital manager in the society or in an organization, because you deal with the digital marketing, you deal with data, you deal with advertising, you deal with the community, you deal with so much things online that you are really the best person to handle digital the digital communication of a brand or a communication. So that's how I started, and then I had other opportunities. I was also hired by the first tech incubator in Cameroon as a community development manager. The name is Active Spaces. It's really the first tech hub. So I went there. I was in charge of making sure that the tech community is growing inside of Active Spaces, but also outside of Active Spaces. I was handling the brand, the image of Active Spaces, making sure that people know about Active Spaces, that we are invited, that we make noise and all that. So when I was working for Active Spaces, I had communities like the WordPress community in Douala and in Boya. And it's through the community of Active Spaces, WordPress community at Active Spaces, that we had the first World Camp in Central Africa. And I also worked with the gaming day is a community of gamers here in Douala too. When they came to me, they were like their first event. We had like 30 participants, but after 6 months, we had 400 participants. So, and we had brands were coming to sponsor their events because they were really attracting people. And that was also my work to make sure that tech communities are really, really growing and so on. So that's a lot of things that I've done. And in 2019, I resigned. I did many things there. So I resigned to focus on my own things, my own businesses, my consultancy agency as well in digital communication. I'm training people, training organizations, employees, and entrepreneurs also on digital entrepreneurship and digital communication. And I launched also WeTech, and we are an innovation center based in Douala, the first innovation center in Cameroon focusing on women in entrepreneurship and technology. So we had last year during the pandemic, we were just having fun, and we created that chatbot, alert COVID chatbot, to make sure that people can check if they have any signs of the virus. And for us, it was really funny. It was something that we did just like that, and we were really surprised by the attention that we got from that. We also built a chatbot for the victims of gender-based violence. It was also something interesting. And lastly, we launched last year um, the WeTech Wild program. While for women, innovative leaders and entrepreneurs, we selected 50 women, African women, in Francophone Africa, because we think that in Francophone Africa, we still have a long way to go when you compare to Anglophone countries, English-speaking countries, to Nigeria, to Kenya, and all that. They are really far, far, far away from us. So we wanted to focus on Francophone Africa. So we selected 50 women with interesting projects with high potential, and also enterprises that are also interesting to watch out. And we follow them for 6 months, giving them a mentorship, access to resources, access to opportunities, and so on. So what we are doing at WeTech, we are really training women on digital. How can I say it? Everything concerning the digital world. We are providing them digital training, digital skills training, like coding, web marketing, cybersecurity, and we will start soon with 3D printing as well. So that is it.
Amazing. Really, that's a lot. There's a lot of experience, massive, and a lot of impact. That's fantastic. So, yeah, I mean, Timitayo, you are actually a entrepreneur on the side, but mainly at Siemens. What brought you there? You have to unmute yourself. I think I unmute you. Yeah, I'll not unmute you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I think my story is slightly different from everybody else's. I kind of fell into the tech space. It wasn't anything that was planned, or it wasn't. It's not like I had a particular interest in it. So I started off my career with Citibank in Nigeria. Spent 2.5 years there, and then I went to the UK to go get my MBA. And I knew that I definitely wanted to work in strategy. So my MBA was actually focused on strategy. So when I came back to Nigeria, I started working with Accenture, well, in this part of the world, they're known mostly for management consulting, but for everywhere else in the world, they're actually known for technology and technology consulting. So, but I was in the management consulting space. So after spending about 6.5 years with Accenture, I moved to Siemens. And the reason why I moved to Siemens is I actually wanted to move into FMCG, but I didn't get any role that I was interested in. So I felt that Siemens was the next best thing. So here I was working with a very, very big technology company, because every single thing that they sell is actually technology. They sell their technology to clients. So working directly with the office of the managing director, and I think my first hand experience with technology was through our CSR programs, where we would come up with hackathon. We would work with startups actually to develop hackathons for Nigerian youth, just so that we can broaden the horizon for technology in Nigeria. So we did a couple of state governments. We have some more that we would be running out later on this year, hopefully. And then also did some projects that had to do with digitalization, had to do with coding, etc. So a lot of the CSR activities that we sponsored, or that I recommended for us to sponsor, actually had to do with technology. So I changed roles within Siemens, and I moved to the global strategy team. And then I think that that's where I really, really am getting my hands dirty when it comes to technology, because at the end of the day, what we try to do with the strategy team is to figure out, one, where the market is going to in the future, what technologies are required, what problems would come up in the future that require solutions of technology, and how does Siemens play in this market. So I think for me, I am not necessarily I'm not necessarily like a tech provider, but I would say that my role is more of how do you leverage the technology that you have, and how do you put it out there? How do you make sure that you're meeting people's needs? How do you make sure that you're running profitably as a business? Because it's one thing for you to have a good idea, and it's another thing for you to be profitable as a business. And then also, how do you also stay ahead of the game? Because Siemens Energy being such a large company, they're competing with smaller startups that are more nimble. So we have to figure out who to partner with, who do we want to acquire, and who do we want to outdo. And so that's where me and my team will be coming from a strategy point of view. And so yeah, so like I guess I would say like I'm an accidental tech person. But what I do, because you mentioned that I was an entrepreneur, so what I do on the side is that I work with a lot of small companies to help them put structures around their businesses, and I work with companies across different industries. So sometimes a company could be a fashion company. Like I'm currently working with an NGO that is actually into technology and trying to bring education to Nigerians through technology as well. So that's what I do on the side. That's like I wouldn't really say, I mean, it's like a consulting role, but it's actually pro bono, because I do it because it's what I like to do, it's my way of giving back. So that's why I spend most of my spare time doing at the moment.
Fantastic. Giving back is also so important, right? It's about positive energy, and I strongly believe in what you give is what you get. So it's a universal's gift, right? So it's really good work, definitely. Thank you for that. Ola, you're coming from a different perspective, actually. You are in IT,
yes,
but you're less in the entrepreneurial space. You're more in the, let's say, intrapreneurial space.
Yes.
In the company. Tell us more.
So my story sounds a little bit like Temitayo's. I never had a dream to end up in tech. I never really saw myself as a tech person. So it was quite funny that I ended up in a tech company. I actually studied languages, and at some point in time, I think my dream was to be a lecturer until those were dashed. So I love languages because I feel that language, to be able to speak another language is such a power. And you can communicate with people, you can be that bridge that, you know, people need you to be if you can speak the language. But of course, the language is not enough. And my brothers and my parents, I remember, would be talking about computers and stuff, and I'd just switch off. And at some point, I interned at SAP after I had finished my master's studies, because honestly, I didn't know what direction my life was going to go, and I didn't have a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan which said this and this and this. And I was open just to try something new. And I got into SAP as an intern back in 2001. And I started in product support. So basically it was, you know, a customer would, you know, they would send their tickets and you would troubleshoot. And what I was gotten for then was, you know, call the customer, tell them we need access to the system, and then, you know, tell us, and then we'll go on it. So I started to pick tickets and I started to work my way through. I couldn't code, you know, but it was, I think I was less scared of the code. I just wanted to understand, why is this happening, and can I fix it? And, you know, the little victories of being able to actually do something and make an impact then. So that's how I grew into the role. And I ended up being a support consultant in that area, and actually growing in that area and getting to experience different things, customer facing roles, technical role. And today I'm actually a communication specialist, because I decided that I wanted to do something non-tech, and just grow in a new role basically, but leveraging the, you know, the experience that I had had before, looking at things analytically and trying to figure out why things don't work. And 2018, I took part in an event, Women in Tech Africa. They had an event in Berlin, and that's actually where I met Saskia for the first time. And that was the first time I was actually seeing that stuff was happening, linking Germany and the African continent together. And that was the first time I actually met people from the startup community. I didn't even know that it existed. So I was pretty much, you know, in my own bubble, work 9 to 5, family and stuff. And then I met them. And from that point in time, my life sort of changed, because I now decided that after thinking back and forth, I was going to take over the chapter lead for Women in Tech Africa in Germany and try and build a community, because I began to notice there were so many women who were doing fabulous things, not only in tech, but in the entrepreneur space. And I was beginning to know them now. And, you know, when we talk about representation here, especially in Germany, I was beginning to be able to identify with them, understand their story, and felt that their story needed to be told not only, you know, on the African continent, but here in Germany. We need to see faces like that. And I guess my way of contributing to, should I say, changing the narrative of the African continent was to be able to connect people, to be able to promote this women, or give them a platform here in Germany whereby they can talk about what it is that they're doing. You know, we have events to bring them and to connect people with them. Who knows where it will take them from there. So I started in this, and it's been a long, hard time trying to create those connections, curate those relationships. But today I find that I've learned so much in that space, and I continue to learn from these women. And it's, you know, it's really, really opened my eyes. So that basically is my passion outside work. Everything work related right now is sort of, you know, the background, I guess, is sort of feeding into what I'm doing today. So that's a little bit about myself.
Fantastic. No, it's always a puzzle. Whatever we do, right, the skill set that we get, we can always add them to something. And I think it's super important that whatever we do aligns with the bigger mission, right? And we can be very grateful that we know our missions, or at least have a tendency to know our missions, because that just makes I would say life and the things we do a lot more joyful, right? So yeah, no, it's fantastic. I really like that, and that's why, you know, ABAWT also has obviously been founded to really get that interconnectivity and talk about a different type of narrative than what is represented, let's say, in the more Western view, right? So where do you guys see where's the lack, or why is there a lack of women represented in technology? Is it maybe that there is actually not a lack of women in technology? It's just that many times women don't define themselves as women in tech, because maybe it has a different type of understanding, as in we think that we're only women in tech because we know how to code. What do you think? Who would like to take that question on?
I can take that question.
Sure.
Only because I think it wasn't until recently that I realized that I'm actually a woman in technology. I think that women are not necessarily encouraged to going into technology. And then if you're now talking about it from an entrepreneurial point of view, that is startups, for example. I mean, if the funding that is available towards women, or the funding that is made available towards women, is actually a very, very unencouraging rate. So, and it's not just within Africa, it's worldwide. I mean, in the US, I think in 2019 or so, the total amount of funding that was given out, only 13% of it was given to startups that are led by women. Globally, the percentage is less than 5%. And in West Africa, I think it's like less than 10% or so. So it's definitely not encouraging, I would say. And then because we don't already have enough women there, I guess for the younger generation coming up, they don't really have that much to look forward to. So even like for me being a millennial, there are not that many women that, you can say that, oh, I would like to be like this person, or I like to be like that person, because, they're there, but they're just a little bit hard to find. And so I think, and then the tech space is still relatively new anyway. And I think people are still trying to, figure it out. So I think it will definitely change in the future, but I think we need to get to a point where if a woman decides to own a startup business, for example, she should at least, have equal footing when it comes to the decision as to whether she will get funded, whether she'll get venture capitalist funding or not. I think that also, you have to catch them young as well. You have to encourage girls in school, primary school, secondary school, to study STEM subjects in secondary school, in universities. There also should be, and I also think that big tech companies like Siemens, like SAP, Microsoft, etc., also need to deliberately look out for women that have a background in technology, and also deliberately groom them, promote them, and let them take more leadership positions. Because, most people that I know that are in technology, both male and female, came from one of these companies, whether you have a background in one of these companies. And I think that if you are able to, groom these women and encourage them and coach them and mentor them, you would have a lot more women venturing out on their own and doing great things in the startup space. So I think it's an all hands on deck thing. And I think also because it's still everything being a technology, it's still a new buzzword. So there are probably a lot of people that are there, but they probably don't realize that they're there.
Agreed. Tosin, what do you think about having worked with Microsoft and what Timikayo just mentioned, that you have to catch them young. I know you're doing your work in collaboration with Microsoft, but also with your own the Bloom Africa, for example, working with younger ladies. Why did you feel there is a need? Obviously we are aware of Nigeria's environment, but you're definitely deep into it. So share with us a little bit your mission and where you find the needs.
So if my internet tries to embarrass me, just give me a look and see what I can do about it. But I have to. That's part of the challenge. Is that there is a huge digital divide between those that are living on the continent and those that are off the continent. But we can get back to that later. I think of the top 25 countries with the least amount of connectivity. I believe that maybe 24 or something high like that are African countries. And so even though whenever I speak to startups, they would like to talk to me about mobile penetration, which I do believe that we definitely have, noticeable penetration on the mobile side. I still say that in a country like Nigeria, where we have 200 million people, when we say mobile penetration, what do we really mean? So someone like myself, for example, I say I have accessibility, and but my Wi-Fi can cut out at any time, and so these are the types of challenges that also are keeping us a little bit, not a little bit, quite a bit behind on the curve in terms of developing ourselves in the fourth industrial revolution. And I think I always like to speak with numbers, because I think numbers always help us to kind of have a clearer concept of the challenges that we're dealing with. And so I'll share with you that, the World Economic Forum, they do the report about gender equity, which obviously is an area of deep passion for me. And so in reading that report, it shared that just 22%, for example, in the emerging technology fields like AI, artificial intelligence, we're looking at just women are accounting for just 20% of those numbers. That's worrisome, right? That's something that we should definitely be paying attention to. And then when we look at, let's say countries like, in the West, like the US, for example, we'll find out, like was just said earlier by my colleague on the panel, that young girls are not being sort of, exposed early on to STEM topics. They're not aware of the vast possibilities that exist within technology. They think technology only equates to coding, which is not true. I always try to push back on that narrative. Like I said during my intro, I myself had no formal training in technology. I learned on the job. And so kind of exposing people to the fact that being a woman in tech, again, just like was said earlier, she didn't even think of herself as, Thames Howard didn't even think of herself as a woman in tech, it just didn't cross her mind, And so how do we begin to expose young girls to this concept, well, not just the concept, then to the steps that they need to take in order to explore that. And so in the US, for example, I think as of a few years ago, there was a Pew Research study, and that research study found out that women accounted for just 18% of computer science degrees and 14% of engineering jobs. And so, I mean, the numbers don't lie, right? So I always say that, when it comes to just the gender equity discussions, I say women lie, men lie, but the numbers don't, right? And so for me, I think when I look at those numbers, it tells us that we have a huge problem. Again, going back to what the World Economic Forum released in that gender equity report, I mean, we know that we're looking at least 2 centuries before we can begin to close just the gender gap in all areas, from politics and so on and so forth. But I think right now, like I'd mentioned earlier, we are in the fourth industrial revolution. This is a whole new sort of dawn in the history of mankind. And if we don't begin to equip both genders with the skill sets that they need, we're going to see countries suffer greatly for that, because you cannot dismiss half of your population at a time such as this and think that you're going to develop and be at the top of your game. So for countries on the continent specifically, we know that we are way behind the gap. In a way, I will say, and this might sound a little bit controversial, but I think, the advent of COVID, last year sort of maybe in a way helped to leapfrog us a little bit. I think we're still waiting to see what that looks like. But in terms of embracing technology, virtual, all types of other ways to do things, which relies on technology. I think because of that, maybe Africa, and I'm saying this again, generally knowing that we have 50-some plus countries, but when I speak generally is to say that I think, and I hope that in some parts of this side of the world, in the global South, that we can begin to see more of a push towards how do we start to empower those that are in the technology ecosystem and bring more people in at a younger age.
Right. Where do you think the barriers lie, actually, in particular for women? Is it society? Is it the industry? Is it, what is it? Elodie, maybe, I don't know, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, so on my point of view, I think um, first of all, I think there's a lack of orientation um, for women in the tech industry. Like make technology more accessible to women and make it fun to women also, because women, we think like Tosin was saying, like you need to know how to code to get in tech and things like that. My background, I mean, I did my studies in marketing, but when I was blogging, I was using Blogger, I mean the Blogspot platform from Google, and at that time you needed to know how, not know how to code, but you needed to know some lines of code to build your blog. So, but we just need to have women be open-minded, make it accessible, make it fun for them, so that they could see technology more. I mean, like, I don't know how I could say it in English, but like for example, um, when you are talking about technology to women, more of in Cameroon at least, more of them will think about social media management. They will think about communication, digital communication, social media, and so on. So, but they will not think about maybe the clean energy, renewable energy. They will not think about the industry. They will not think about technology is so large, and you need people to orient them. You need people to show them the way. You need people to make it like show the large scope, like the large vision of what is technology, and then guide them and let them know, like, okay, you don't have to focus on digital. You can focus on something else. We like women in big data, for example. We like women in cybersecurity. We like women in so many domains concerning the technology, even in the energy and so on. So I think we just need maybe more mentors, more people to guide women, more people to make technology more accessible, to make it. I mean, that's why I think for now.
Okay, thank you. I mean, there's also a lack, not only of women represented in technology, but also in leadership roles, right? And I think I would like to direct that question to Ola. Um, how do you feel, what could be the cause that there's a lack of women actually in leadership? Is it that the potential, like, how do you say, there's this boys club basically sticking together too much, or are women maybe intimidated, or is it that women actually don't want to get into leadership? I mean, there's so many thoughts on this. What do you think? What's your opinion? Or maybe what have you experienced?
I think, as you said, there's so many aspects to that. Not every woman wants to be in a leadership position. And then I guess you also have to look at what sort of a character are you? Do you have the staying power to be able to want to fight to get to that position? Because it's not something that is going to be handed to you on a platter. You have to work to get there. And I guess the acceptance also, and of course, the necessary mentors or sponsors that you have on your way to get you there. There are women who have had it, I won't say that they've had it easy. They've had steps that they've had to take to get to where they are, and those steps haven't been easy. But they had a good mentor on the way, or they had somebody that they could talk to and say, look, this is where I need to go, and this is where they've been. Regarding the lack of representation on that level, I think, I think there really still is a boys club up there, and that's just how it is. Changing the dynamics is nothing that is going to happen overnight. It involves a whole lot more acceptance, facing the current issues. I mean, if you tell me, for example, that you have a position and then you you hire a man, although you tell me that, you know, diversity numbers are very important for you, does that mean that you really could not find one woman who could fit that? I mean, really, is there no woman in this world who can actually fit that position? This is something that I still don't get. So how do we start to change it? I mean, we're doing all that we can. How much more do we have to do to be accepted or to actually get to that position? And, you know, you can discuss quota numbers here and there. And I think there's a lot of negativity also around the numbers of the quotas. But you can say the quotas hold you accountable. But then for a woman, are you on a quota? Do they have you on the board because they're fulfilling a quota? Is this what I want to be? Or do I want to be seen as being there because I actually have the skills, the knowledge, and the ability to do the job? And these are, I won't say that this keeps me up at night, but sometimes I actually do wonder if I wanted to be up there, do I have to take on a bullish character to push my way through, or will my experience and my expertise get me to where I need to go? I find this very difficult to explain today. And I think there's also a culture thing. I think there are countries, I think Asia, for example, continent, Asia, for example, where you will find women leaders. And I think in the US also, but here in Europe, especially in Germany, I'm not sure how many women you have up there in the CEO level where you can say, okay, you see representation, not so many.
Yeah, yeah. That's anyways really, really super interesting, looking for like on the different continents, the way women in leadership is being held. And you might think that now, of course, you and me sitting in Germany, you know, that being an industrialized country, having one of the most successful, powerful women as our leader, as a chancellor, you might think that we're a lot further when it comes to women in leadership roles. But it's not, it's very small. There is still a massive gender gap. And we find that actually in Asian countries, or also I think in African countries, you have a higher percentage of women in leadership roles than actually in the so-called industrial countries, industrialized countries. And that is mind-boggling to me. And with that quota, what's your thoughts on that, ladies? Tell me.
I have a very strong...
Hi, sorry. So I was just gonna... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Tosin. Go ahead. I'll go after.
Oh, okay. Sorry. With the delay in the Wi-Fi. I just wanted to make a couple of points here. I think I agree with a lot of what my colleagues here have said already. And I think while, you know, definitely there's an opportunity to introduce, expose, encourage more young women to consider roles in technology, I think there are other, you know, steps that we have to take that are more intentional even. And that is, for example, being intentional, as somebody said, about your hiring practices. And so that goes back to your question about the quota. Now, yeah, you're right that it does feel a type of way to consider yourself to be a quota. But again, when you are at sort of the beginning stages of what I would call a relatively new industry in many ways, how do you hold people accountable? You know, like was said before, how do you hold people accountable when we know that we are constantly working against all kinds of unconscious biases? And no matter how many times you send people to training to go figure out how not to be unconsciously biased, they're still going to be unconsciously biased, right? So, I mean, we've done several experiments where we put someone's resume, but we'll put a male's name on top of it. Same, I mean, this is a woman's resume, but we changed the name to a man's name. There have been several studies done, and then you submit it with the woman's name, and you will be shocked at how oftentimes people will pick the name that is male, because somewhere in their subconscious, they already feel like this is who they should start with and not the woman, because what could she know about technology, right? And so there is a deeper thing that we have to confront here. There's a deeper, uglier issue than just how do we get more girls into STEM programs. It's about how do we challenge, how do we hold ourselves accountable, but others, meaning even our workplaces, you know, to say, listen, there's got to be some intentionality built into this. There's got to be some level of, and you don't have to call it a quota, but it's to just say, listen, even if it's to say we're going to have a special internship program for young women, and from there we can build a pipeline into the company. That doesn't feel like quota to me. That feels like you're being intentional. You're building a pipeline. You're investing in the future. You're investing in women. It's solutions like that we need to see more of. And then I think beyond that too, I think there is this, I'm going to hold men accountable in this situation as well, because oftentimes when women are seeking, and I always say there's a difference between sponsorship and mentorship, right? Sponsorship is what we need more of. Mentorship is great, don't get me wrong. I'm a mentor myself. I think it's amazing. But where I really know that it counts is when I can sponsor another woman. And what I mean by that is to be able to say, I'm putting her name up for promotion. If I have a position of power, I'm going to recommend her for a salary increase. I'm going to make sure she goes for the proper trainings. I'm going to make sure that I speak her name in rooms where decisions are being made around who's got next. And so that's sort of the responsibility that I bear. But then on the men's side as well, I also hold you accountable to say that what stops you from being a sponsor, and I know that there's, we have to be very careful in the workplace these days, guys. And I think I don't need to stress that. But at the end of the day, if you know that you are in the position of power, meaning that you make up the majority in this industry, then that means you as a man should also, if you are truly interested in gender equity, if you're leading a tech firm, you should say, hey, listen, we need to start looking out for the women. We need to do this, we need to do that. And then also for you to look around and say, this lady here has great talent. I see the talent and I don't care what gender she is, but I want to hire her and I want to promote her. You also bear responsibility to also do that. You can also be a sponsor, but a lot of times I think when we talk about sponsorships and mentorship, it's always this very kind of thin line between, oh, I'd rather be mentored by, similar genders, like to kind of stick together. But listen, in the tech space, we don't have enough of us. And so we're going to need the help of the men to also help to push us forward. And that's when I think things become intentional, they become purposeful, it's directed. I actually want us to start tracking numbers. If you're on a company level, how many women do we have engaged in certain levels of this company? Are we making sure that we're actively recruiting for them? And I'm not asking you to give us a pity hire. I'm not asking you to hire me just because I'm a woman. I have to qualify. I have to be damn good. But the thing is, allow me to compete on my own qualifications. And if I'm as good, then I'm asking you to consider me as well. And if I'm the stronger candidate, I'm asking you to hire me and pay me the same as well.
The same. There you go. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely right. Actually, I see we have one viewer, Samaila, I hope I pronounced it correctly, asked a really good question here. Can more women rise to leadership roles in the tech workplace without changing the gender role girls play growing up in a typical African home?
Yes.
How? Yeah.
That's the short answer. The short answer to that question is yes. The long answer is that, to be honest with you, I think it starts with the mindset. The mindset on the part of women, the mindset on the part of men, the mindset on the part of the organizations that we want to work for, society, etc. So, for example, you as a woman, if you have a dream, a vision for yourself, if you want to be, I don't know, maybe the next CEO of SAP Global or the next CEO of Microsoft Global, you have to do the work. You have to obviously go to school, get an education, get the right degrees, get the right qualifications, figure out what you need to do to get to where you want to be. Then, another thing is try to find one or two people that have told a similar line. You don't necessarily have to, how do I put it, have them as mentors or whatever, but I mean, just kind of watch and monitor, some of the things that they do, etc. But you actually have to put in the work. And it's very, very sad to say that you probably have to put in at least 50% more work than your male counterparts. You have to speak up. You have to make sure that you're heard. You shouldn't, for example, go to meetings and, you're the one taking the notes or you're quiet. No, you probably have to, come out of your comfort zone to assert yourself. So I think, first of all, women need to change that mindset and not limit themselves, and know that whatever it is that their male counterparts want to achieve, or whatever it is that they want to achieve on their own, they can definitely do it. It's definitely going to be harder. I have worked very, very closely with a top woman in this industry, and I know some of the issues and some of the obstacles that she has faced being in the position that she is. So even though she still had the position of the biggest boss in the room, people would still try to undermine her because she's a woman. And so, sometimes she would have to be like, no, you can't do that to me. Absolutely not. I've worked for this position. This is well, I don't want to say my right, but if it was a guy that was in this, you definitely wouldn't behave like this. So definitely, I think the answer is yes. But you have to be prepared to do the work. You also have to be prepared to face a lot of backlash, to also face a lot of would I say maybe disrespect. And I'm speaking from like first-hand knowledge, somebody that is in the corporate world. And I think the issues that we're facing, to be honest with you, I think the corporate world really, really does have a long, they have a huge responsibility in this, because if they're not going to change it, then honestly, any tech startup that comes up is still going to have that issue as well. So in as much as I do not like the fact that there are quotas, I feel like quotas are a step in the right direction, but I feel like we as women should not settle for that, should not accept that and say, okay, well, there's a quota and I'm just going to try and make the quota. No, the quota is a step in the right direction, but as far as I am concerned, it should not be the final bus stop. I mean, we fought so hard to be educated. We fought so hard to be allowed to go to work. We fought so hard to be allowed to vote, to be allowed to drive. We've done so many things. I think that, we shouldn't just settle with being part of a quota, which I said is nice, is a step in the right direction, but that's not the ultimate for us. So yeah, so just to answer that question, yeah, definitely yes, you definitely can. I have seen women that have done that. I have seen several women that have done that. I was raised by a woman that rose to the very top of her career professionally. It was a long time ago, so there really wasn't tech then. So so having been raised by one and having been mentored by a couple of others definitely is something that is doable.
I'd like to jump a little bit on what you said. I didn't have role models in that area. Actually, I didn't, when I look at people who are starting off right now and the support that they have, I never had. So I never had somebody say, go this direction, or why don't you think of? So it was all, I won't say it was all self-push, but I always pulled myself back. I always said, well, then, I couldn't praise myself. I could not market myself. Okay, I could not speak for myself. And I felt all the hard work I was doing, somebody would notice. And even if they noticed it, it didn't really matter. And as you said, I worked twice as hard as anybody else. Yeah. I was happy with my achievements, but it was just for me. I mean, it didn't make me, it didn't make me move up. And I look at the support structure now, people that I'm speaking to, people that I'm learning from later on in life, thinking, what if I had had that support before? Maybe I'd have sat down and really come up with a plan of, okay, what are the next steps? And it shouldn't really matter that I'm a woman. It's my competence that actually should be at play.
Sure.
And there was something somebody said. She said she went to a girls' boarding school. And for her, the competition wasn't on the basis of, boy, girl, because there were only girls, but they had no fear of technology because everything was the same, right? So that competitive spirit was on the basis of grades, but not on the basis of what you knew. And it was when she left a boarding school and was now in a mixed school, she now saw, the gap, basically. So it's like, are we, as young people, the steps that we take, are we encouraged correctly to actually follow where we could develop competences? And yes, tech is an enabler. I see it in my daughter today. I mean, she's sitting there, I'd like to throw her phone away, but the stuff that she does on her phone, that she's learned on her own, now her wanting to maybe create a little page on her own and just write little HTML, it's stuff that, and it's coming from self-encouragement and seeing what's out there. So we have children who are born as digital natives and who are growing in that space where I'm thinking, oh my God, look at how fast they pick it up. And meanwhile, here am I sitting, okay, what does this mean again? Actually, you know what? Okay, fine, I finally get it. it's so good to look at this comparison. And I completely, I respect all of the people who are doing business right now. Look at the entrepreneurs in our round right now who've picked up, who are doing things of impact. And it's nice to see that, our world is not so small, and you're making an impact.
No, definitely. I definitely agree with you. And I think that, I was like, I think I was in your shoes for a very long time, where I was probably my only cheerleader. And I just happened to meet somebody who believed in me, who pushed me beyond my comfort zone, out of my comfort zone, like 10,000 miles away from my comfort zone, because, she believed in me. No, this is the truth. And, I remember I was speaking to her the other day, and I said, look, it's okay being your own cheerleader and everything, but it's another thing when somebody else believes in you, and when somebody else pushes you, and when somebody else believes that you can definitely be more than what you are. But if you don't have that, and like I didn't have that for a very long time, and you're saying you didn't have that either, then you have to encourage yourself. You have to probably look at other people and say, look, if this person can do it, I can definitely do it as well. And I think for women, one of the things that I have learned very early on in my career is do not say no. Any opportunity that is given to you, don't say no. Take it. Don't think about, oh, well, I might not get married, or my husband. Don't say no. Take it. You figure it out. You're a woman. You figure it out. Everything will eventually work out, and everything will be fine. But do not say no to any opportunity that comes your way. And I think that's one thing I've learned in my career. And, I typically don't, if you ask me anything, if you ask me something to do, I probably will not say no. And not because I know how to do it, I figure it out, but it's an opportunity and I'll grasp it. So you have to be extremely hungry. Whatever it is your male counterparts say they don't want to do, no problem, take it on. Do it. You figure it out. If you fail, it's okay. You learn from it and you move on. So please don't say no. That's like, if that's the only thing you learn from this session today, please just take that. Do not say no to any opportunity that comes your way.
I absolutely agree with that. And it took me personally a very long time to take a leap of faith and kind of start believing in my resume first before I start believing in myself. So I don't know if you know this feeling of sometimes you look at the representation of yourself outside and you're like, this sounds much bigger than I actually feel, right? So absolutely. I think that's also a work that has to be done, and it all comes together and it all aligns, right? In terms of also then taking on opportunities that go into an area where you think you are actually not part of, but you are, right? You just don't see it yet. So that's a big part. I actually have two questions. There's Sarah. I have answered her question from our ABAWT side already, but maybe one of you ladies also has a suggestion. So she's asking, as a young African in Germany, how can I find a mentor that can give me the best guidance based on them being able to understand what I go through as an African woman? I ask this because I feel like there are not enough African women in Germany acting as mentors. How about these? I don't know if Ola, if you don't have any suggestions right now. I mean, I know Tosin, your space is in Nigeria more. Then we're probably more than happy to connect Sarah also.
But she asks a very relevant question.
Right.
I think the mentor that I have is actually not based in Germany. So I feel like, I won't say that I feel like I'm alone where I am, but I think there are two other people I can speak to who we're sort of mentors to each other, but also our best cheerleaders, because we find ourselves also in the corporate world here in Germany and we support each other, but it is hard. It is hard, especially if you're not in those circles and you don't have many at work. So Sarah, we can connect.
Yeah. Sarah, we have shared everybody's LinkedIn files in the chat. You probably see it when you scroll up and down. So you also find Ola's LinkedIn as well as Timothy's and Tosin's. And that counts for everyone else also in the chat. Of course, you can always connect with us. I have another question here from Mercy, who says, this is an amazing session. Thank you very much, Mercy. I work for a social enterprise empowering public secondary school students, especially girls, to pursue tech-based careers. What recommendations do you have for an organization like ours to build a sustainable system to reach more young students in Nigeria and in Africa? I think Tosin has a good direction, question for you, actually.
Yeah, I looked at it and I thought, the answer for me in many ways is always about partnerships. That's what one of my key expert areas. And I believe that partnerships is the way to begin to build sustainability, especially when, it's a social enterprise. That means that you're going to need support. You're going to need people to help drive your mission forward. You're going to need to engage, network. And now, when you do say to build a sustainable system, I don't know if you're talking more about your actual business, like your model, if it's sustainable, I'm not sure, or if it's just about more, how do you continue on, meaning that how do you continue to be sustainable in the market and use it to the audience that you're trying to target. Like I said, if that's the case, then there are partnerships, partnering with organizations like Girls Who Code, Pearls. We just, my Power Girls Africa just recently raised money to donate to them. They're a great organization. Would it be possible to link with them? There is a program called Mentors. It's on the Bloom Africa's Instagram page, Wentor, WENTORS, and they are striving to mentor 1,000 women and find 1,000 mentors. And so people are being invited to apply as mentees and as mentors as well. And this is across many different countries, not just Nigeria. So I would ask you to kindly look into that, or it's at the Bloom Africa as the Instagram page. And if you just scroll down just a little bit, you'll see a post that says from the Bloom desk. And that's an opportunity that I think just to connect back to the mentorship opportunity there, just for anyone that's looking for a way to do this. Because right now, virtual is the way anyway. So if you have to tap a virtual mentor that is, somewhere else in Europe or even Germany, but not close, I think you should look into that. But like I said, in terms of sustainability of a social enterprise, it's always about funding. It's always about having a strong foundation in your business model. And it's obviously about also having right funders and partners to help drive your mission forward. Oh, by sustainable system, I'm referring to how to create lasting solutions over time. Yeah, so that's more of like I would say, business model discussion, where you're going to have to figure out exactly what it is that you are trying to achieve, what the vision is, what the mission is, and then break it down into the goals. I always teach about that in strategic planning, so that you go into your goals and, okay, so what are we trying to do? Are we trying to build a network of young girls that we've mentored? Are we trying to partner with larger organizations and have young girls intern at them? There's just so many ways that you can. And then also, like I said, because you're a social enterprise, are you monetizing any part of this at all? Or are you going to be looking for mostly sponsorships and funding? Those are the kinds of questions that you're going to need to really sit down with. And so I think a lot of times when we create social enterprises, a lot of us that do it, we do it from the heart, because that's what drives most of us that do social enterprise work. But then over time, I've learned that the heart is good, but yeah, you're going to have to run those numbers. You're going to have to do those financial models and check also. If you don't have the expertise, then I always say hire someone who does. Always hire for your weaknesses and bring in someone who can help you structure this so that your organization can really do what is on your heart to do with it, which is probably part of your purpose. And so I think finding a way to do that is going to be important for you.
Absolutely. It's all about sustainable, right? Meaning you can make your enterprise, whether it's social or non-social, stay alive, to do good and to continue good. So we're living in a world where obviously the monetary part is very important either way. Going to good work. Elodie, we're happy you're back. Oh God, now my internet. Am I back? Can everybody hear me? My internet, yes. I think just dropped. Okay, you see, in Germany, internet is also not so good. All right, let me try to find. Ah, am I back? Am I back? Oh God, don't tell me this now.
You haven't really been away.
Oh, sorry.
We can see you, we can hear you.
Awesome, good, thank you. All right. So in the very beginning, there was a question by Benedictus directed to Elodie. So the question is, I want to know if you do any work related to online violence and abuse against women and girls.
Okay, that is something that we are working on since we built the Alert GVB chatbot. So we are trying to see how to tackle that issues as well, how to address that issues as well. We are trying to we are thinking about maybe sessions or workshops or events that we can do in that domain, in the domain of gender-based violence. But one thing is for sure is we are currently discussing with the Ministry of Women's Empowerment and the Family here in Cameroon, which is really interesting in our solution. So for the International Women's Day, they asked us to come and talk to women's association leaders about about technology and also how to address gender-based violence. So with more, maybe with the just support, because we are discussing with the ministry as well. Maybe with just support, we can have something coming up in the next week or next month. For now, I cannot say much about that because we are still thinking about what we can do and what we can organize specifically to address that issues. Thank you. I hope I hope I answered the question.
You probably did. I mean, this is amazing. And it's actually, I mean, if it's already in the next month or so, then that's fantastic. Pretty close, actually, in terms of achievements. We're getting towards an end. We have a few minutes left, and I would like to throw quite a big, trendy question towards all of you. What do you think 2030 will look like in the tech sector for women? Anybody wants to take that?
Okay, I can go first.
Sure.
I can go first. Okay. I think there'll definitely be a lot of disruptive technologies by 2030, especially with the push for sustainability within corporates and then also within startups as well. So I think that there will be more opportunities for women to play in tech. And there'll also be more opportunities for new innovations to come up. And I'm saying that it's funny you would ask that question about 2030 because I'm actually currently working on something regarding 2030. So yes, there definitely will be more opportunities, definitely be a lot of disruptions as well, definitely be more technologies coming up. So I think the playing field would be wider and bigger and broader. And I think that that poses for more opportunities for women because let's face it, the men can't do everything. So so I think that is definitely promising. And I think for women that are in the tech space or looking to enter the tech space, I think now is the time to try and do your research, think of where organizations, where the society, where government is going to by 2030, and see how you can appropriately position yourself to be ready for the future.
Okay. Ola, what do you think? Are there any plans in your realm of SAP or within the industry that you think there are special tasks that are being, or special steps that are being taken in that direction? Or how would it look
I can't
like?
speak for SAP, so my hope for 2030 would be that we have We have products that cater to both parts, both men and women, more products, but more products that are also designed with that in mind. It shouldn't be that we're still fighting the gender issue then. I hope, and I'm looking forward to having more people, more young people in that space disrupting stuff. So basically, I support what Temitayo has also said. I think there will be disruption, and I think it will be a good thing, because I think the more we're talking about this, the more aware we are, and the more our generation becomes older and we welcome in younger generations who have different thought process than I do, for example.
Okay. Tosin, what do you think is in Nigeria and in the whole realm of West Africa? What do you think, or where do you hope it will be in a couple of years?
Well, I have to say that I think that we'll still be pushing back on the, the gender inequality piece. I don't see that going away too quickly, because if you look at the history of the world in general, when it comes to women, we oftentimes have to stick with the fight a lot longer than we are expecting to, but stick with it we do. And every little bit of progress we make is progress that we celebrate. And so part of the progress that I'm already celebrating is that in my cohort of mentees for the Power Girls Africa, which is a formal mentorship program I have for young teen girls, to talk to them about things that they don't talk to them in school about, like financial management, mental health, and I'm so surprised that so many of them have told me or are currently in school for technology-focused subjects or STEM courses. And so I'm seeing on my side an increase in young girls not thinking as like, what is that? They're like, yeah, no, I want to go into technology. And so my hope is that it becomes more normalized as a career path, the same way our African parents told us that we only had 3 options. I think that was being a lawyer, engineer,
and a doctor.
Oh, doctor. Oh, and then there's accountants. Yeah, so there was 4. There was 4. It was just 4. So now we're hoping that, they can add technology to it, and so we can get more girls in there. But I see the future where there will be more, but I still think that we still have to continue to as women often do, fight the system, to ensure that our voices are being heard, that we are at the tables, and that when we are not at the tables, that we have the confidence and the courage to build our own. And I hope that that's what I start to see more of. And also women, helping women come up. I think that's important. And I think that's a discussion that we need to probably, continue to have more of. It's just sometimes it's easy for us to point to the other gender and say, you're the one that's keeping us out, which is, true to a large extent, or just the way the system is. But I think also as women, we need to take the charge of being more intentional in our support of other women that are also trying to break through. I know that oftentimes, when you get to a certain level in your career, because they've made us feel that there's so little space or no space for us, sometimes I see women that when they get there, they think, there can't be any other women. It's just me. I barely made it here, so I'm not going to let someone else come and take that. And so I think we need to really address those types of, sort of limitations and mindsets to also begin to see some. And that's me just being real, is that we have to look at this from a holistic point of view. Everyone has a role to play now and moving forward in helping us to get to where we need to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. Those are actually beautiful, beautiful words to finish this up. Ladies, thank you so much for this great conversation. I think we have learned a lot. I also want to thank all the viewers for being, around, sticking around with with us for 1.5 hours. Also being very engaging. Thank you for your questions and your comments. Again, we have, sorry. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm reading here something on the side from Colette. So it's been a really great evening with all of you, and please do keep in touch with us. We shared from ABAWT all the social media handles and our email address. We shared the social media handles and LinkedIn profiles with our wonderful speakers. So if you have more questions, please come direct them to us, connect with us. We're looking very much forward to stay in touch with all of you. Ladies, thank you so much. I really appreciate that you are here with us and that you've taken the time and shared insights. And funny enough is all of you guys are still on frozen mode for me. My internet is so slow that it doesn't even show me all the interactions. I cannot see any beautiful faces at the moment. So yeah, Germany is sometimes really the worst when it comes to internet. So I'll let you all go.
I would have never guessed that, Saskia. I would have never in a million years. You learn something new every day, I tell you. I would have never guessed that.
Trust me. I once was talking with somebody in the Dominican Republic who was taking a bath in the river, and the internet connection was better with that person than it was with my mother while I was still in Europe, and she was in Germany. So
you have to do better. Yeah.
It's the old structures, you know, the old structures that yeah, I don't know, want to stick on and doesn't want to give way for the new structures. And that's what we all talked about tonight, right? So thank you, ladies. I'll let you go. Enjoy your evening. All of you have a nice glass of wine and